Kathy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Whoops.
John,
Ouch. I don't know what that did. I have it on my phone. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you,
hi,
Sean.
Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Sean.
Hi.
Sean.
All right.
Kathy,
I can't get it on my computer.
can you
but I have it
email
on-
the link to Andy?
Yeah,
Send
I
him
can.
the agenda,
can you? Okay, thanks, Ally.
Yep.
Andy Clark. Are we live, Jim? Okay, good evening. This is a meeting of the Northborough Community Preservation Committee. This open meeting will be conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth from the outbreak of the Corona-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Community Preservation Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows Northborough Community Preservation Committee to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded, so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise, which I have not. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of the meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting does not feature public comment, except to the extent that the CPA applicants are part of the agenda tonight. At this point, I want to make sure everyone can hear me. Thumbs up from anybody? Okay, there was some strange audio going on there. I need to take a quick roll call. So when I call you as a member, could you please respond verbally? Peter?
Here.
Jim Leland? Jeff Leland, sorry.
Here.
Wesley?
Here.
Millie?
Here.
John is here. Do we have Sean Durkin on the phone?
John, you're muted.
And we also have Scott Charpentier has his hand raised.
I have it now.
Ally, could you text Scott as to why he's got his hand raised?
Yeah, let me go grab my phone. I'll be right back.
I forgot my phone too.
That's okay. I'll be right back.
Thanks, Ally.
I'm not muted on my main device. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good.
Yes.
I got Millie here, right? Yes, Millie?
Yes, you did.
Hi, Millie. Sean, are you with us? Sean Durkin?
I'm here. Can you hear me, John?
Yes,
Wow.
thank you. Nice to hear you if I can't see you.
I can see you guys. For some reason, I'm not on. I don't know.
That's great.
Kathy.
Yeah.
Scott said his hand was raised because he's trying to get in. I don't
well-
know.
Okay, yeah, we'll let him in shortly. Yep.
Okay.
Very good. So we have 6 members of the CPC, so we can proceed. And we'll see if, I know we're waiting for 1 or 2 other members. And as they come in, we'll have them join. I wanted to suggest that then, therefore, we flip to the old business first and try to approve old meeting minutes. Apparently it goes back to June 30, 2020. The primary business during that meeting was a discussion of the CP application from last July's town meeting of the disc golf course and some other items. Are there any questions on the minutes? And if not, could I get a motion to approve them?
So moved.
I actually had some questions.
Go forth.
On the second page in the middle paragraph, it says a cease and desist was issued in June. Would we want to maybe note who that was issued by?
In the minutes.
I mean, they're talking about the Conservation Committee, but also the Recreation Committee director. So I'm not sure if that would want to be clarified or if it's necessary.
It was issued by Mia, the conservation agent.
Okay.
It's not a bad idea that the sentence could be edited to say,
Yep, I can do that.
you know, the cease and desist issued by the conservation agent was adhered to, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a good point. It's a rambling paragraph, so it's hard to clarify.
It was kind of, yeah. I do have a couple. One other question, I think, is on the third page, the fourth block down. It's talking about the town committee, and I think it's supposed to be the town common committee is sponsoring a plaque acknowledging the CPA.
I believe you are correct.
Right, so Millie, that's, what is it on the third page?
It's the third page. It's the fourth
Third,
block
third,
down.
third complete paragraph,
Yeah,
Yes.
fourth line down.
thank you. It says the town committee, and I think it should be the town common committee. But that was it, I think.
Good catch, Millie.
I'll move approval of the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Peter.
Second,
Second was by
Jeff.
Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. All in favor of approving the minutes, I'll need a verbal from Peter.
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
Millie,
Aye.
Sean.
Aye.
We have 6-0 to approve the minutes of June 30. Thank you. Moving on, the next minutes were September 17th, 2020. Primary order of business was request from NAHC, the Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation, to approve release of funds already allocated and held in agreement by the town. And this is toward their action on the next project at Hitching Post Lane that I'm sure we'll hear more about. Any questions on the minutes?
I have some really quick. On the members absent, or the members present, it doesn't really denote whether Sean Durkin or Rita Osborne are there. Should they be noted as either absent or present?
I would say yes for Sean, who's been a regular member of the committee. I don't know that it's necessary to list Rita.
Okay. She was just
she's
on
never-
others, so I just wasn't sure.
Yeah. It's a good point, but she's never been present. So, but you're right. She was on the June 30 minutes. So for completeness, it should say same.
Okay, yeah.
So on September 17th minutes, it should say members absent: Todd Hedwig, Leslie Harrison, Sean Durkin, Rita Osborne.
Okay. And one other thing on the end, it doesn't really have a motion to adjourn or anything noting that. Does that make a huge difference, or is that just, again, consistency?
I don't recall that we formally motioned to adjourn that often, although it was done on June 30.
Okay,
And subsequently, so.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary to list that. Kathy, do you have an opinion?
We can go back to the tape and just look, or we can just estimate usually about, that was a short meeting. That was just with Rick's group. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it
if
was
you're
held-
okay, I'll just put an adjournment of 8 o'clock.
You know, I think it was held in the lunchroom, if I recall, and
it's pretty
it
quick.
was a relatively informal discussion, although, you know, we voted. So that's my memory for what it's worth.
Okay, that's it.
Without any more questions, motion to approve these minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
So Peter and Jeff again.
Mhm.
Thank you, guys. Could I have a vote all in favor of approving the September 17th, 2020 minutes? Need a verbal reply. Peter,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Millie,
Yeah, yes.
Sean,
Yes.
and me also, 6-0 to approve the minutes. Thank you. And next is
December 10th.
the minutes from December 10th. This was our introductory meeting for the season, so to speak. We had a presentation from Jason, the finance director. And we discussed briefly the applications that we had in hand. Any questions on the minutes? I have one small comment that happens to relate to my presentation later. Page 1 in the paragraph entitled Jason Little, Finance Director. At the very last, when it's talking about the financing for White Cliffs, in parentheses, taxable bond with 4% interest equals 204,000 even. In his spreadsheet, the figure is 203,780. So is that the correct figure to the list? And does anybody remember, are we supposed to vote to approve that exact amount, or were we rounding up for some reason?
I've always rounded up.
Uh,
I mean, you haven't voted anyways, you know,
correct,
on the articles for town meeting, but
righto. So perhaps with respect to the minutes, it was just either rounding up, or it was actually said to be a rounded number, and that's fine. Anything else on those minutes? If not, could I get a motion to approve the December 10 minutes
So moved.
from Leslie?
Second.
Is that Jeff?
Sean.
Sean, thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Can I get a vote all in favor of approving the minutes? I need a verbal. Peter,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
Millie,
Aye.
Sean,
Yes. Approve.
and yes from John too. Minutes approved from December 10. I'm so glad we took care of that. Always a relief. We were waiting for a couple more members. Anybody hear from Andy Clark yet? He was hoping to come in. I see Todd Helwig has joined. Todd, can you get a verbal that you're present? I see you.
I am here.
John, do we know if Andy's coming in on video, or could one of those, there's 2 phone numbers in the attendees. I don't know if one of those might be Andy.
What's the number?
The last 3 numbers show up. One is 129. And the other,
John, you could ask if either of those are him, just to raise his digital hand.
Okay, Andy Clark, if you're on verbally by phone only, I don't know if you can raise a digital hand. He usually is on computer unless he's having a problem.
R9 will do it.
You might have just been having a technical issue. That's
Okay.
okay. We'll bring him in when the time comes. Well, good. If there's no other objection, I'll launch into the presentation of our applications for the fiscal 22 CPA applications. And the first would be the Recreation Department, who is looking to add pickleball courts at Ellsworth McAfee. Who was the
Benny?
presenter? Would that be Ally? And you want to take over?
Yes, I'm going to be presenting, and then Scott will help answer any questions that you have. So that's why we're both here.
Excellent. Good to see you, Scott, as well.
Thanks for having me. I am very excited about this application, and I know I say that every time I come to you guys, and I usually come to you asking for an exorbitant amount of money. So I feel like this one's relatively low compared to my last couple. So you're welcome.
We'll be the judge.
This is my first time presenting on Zoom, so I'm going to kind of briefly go over my application, since there are people that are watching and that are listening that don't have the application in front of them. Is that okay with you, John?
That's fine.
Okay. So what we're looking to do is to add 6 pickleball courts to Ellsworth McAfee. And I know, Kathy, do you have the picture that we can screen share? I'll talk while she tries to do that.
Yep, it's coming.
Okay, take your time. So we're looking to put it relatively near the road, which you'll see once it comes up. The total cost of the project is $290,250. A brief description of the project is to put 6 outdoor pickleball courts at the edge of Ellsworth McAfee. There will be some demo and site prep, as well as having to pave the site. There will be drainage, landscaping, as well as fencing for the project.
Right, deep.
Most importantly, the goals for this
Natalie,
project.
I have their plan, but it's not coming up.
Kath, you gotta mute.
Sorry. I'm trying to get your picture up.
I know, that's okay. Take your time.
Okay.
So the goals of the project are to offer an outdoor facility for the very large pickleball community that we have, not only in Northborough and all the surrounding communities. I'm sure that everyone listening and everyone here has at least heard of pickleball. It is sort of taking the country by storm. As of right now, there's only 1 court in the entire town, and that's located in the town hall gym. So we don't have any outdoor courts, and we have no indoor courts except for that 1 court. So we're looking to expand our offerings by building 6 outdoor courts at Ellsworth McAfee. The entire community, but especially the senior population, will benefit from this project. Currently, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the United States. It's being taught at all the local schools. My kids have taken it in PE classes, Algonquin, all the local schools are now teaching pickleball. It's not just for seniors. We actually have a large population of men and women in their 30s and 40s that play as well. I don't know if any of you have driven by Lyman Street, which is in Westboro, right across from the Chauncey Lake. They have 6 courts right there that they built, I believe, 1.5 years, 2 years ago, that are used every single time you drive by. The place is packed. So we're looking to hopefully open some up in Northborough. There we go. Thank you, Kathy. So as you can see, just quickly on the picture, when you pull into Ellsworth McAfee, you can see the top of the pavilion. This is where we're looking to put the 6 courts. We have them facing in that direction on purpose so that they're not playing with their face to the sun when it's setting or coming up. So that's why the direction of the courts are in that way. In 2020 master plan for the open space and recreation, the first goal was to maintain and expand opportunities for active recreation to residents of all ages and abilities. So I think that this really falls under that category. And I was really involved with John Campbell and the whole group for the open space recreation plan. And this was something that came up over and over again, is creating more active space for everyone. And like I said, it's definitely for the large senior population, but it's also going to be used by kids who know how to play, adults in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. Pretty much it holds no age ground. So it's an awesome opportunity. The level of support for this is definitely one of the highest that I've seen, because it's for all age groups. I don't get to come here and often promote things that seniors are just so obsessed and love so much. So that's one of the reasons I'm really happy about this, because like I said, the one court in town is located right outside of my office. So not only do I get to talk with them all the time, they taught me how to play the game. I actively love this game. It's very, very addictive. And once you learn how to play, you just play all the time. So for me, it's personal, because I know the people that play this game. I know the passion that they have for it. And I would just love to see this project happen. There is a cost estimate sheet located in the packet that you guys have. If you have any questions on that, Scott can definitely speak to that. As of right now, the town will be providing the land, but we do not have any additional funding for this project besides what we're asking you, the CPC, for. As far as a timeline, the project design will commence after approval of funding at the annual town meeting. It will take approximately 3 months to complete and will be followed by a 1-month public bid period. Construction is expected to begin in September and will substantially complete by December, with the final punch list in the spring of 2022. As we've done in the past, Scott and I will be working directly with this project together. That's been pretty successful in the past, so I'm excited to be working with him on that. And the recreation and DPW departments will be responsible for the continued maintenance of this project. And that is my application. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Hey, Ally, this is John. I just wanted to bring up, were you present on the presentation of the open space plan survey? That was a
Yes.
Zoom conference in September.
Yes.
So if I recall, there was quite a bit of resident feedback. Do you want to describe that a little bit?
Absolutely. So during our open space, we had a bunch of residents that did come into the Zoom that we were holding and express their interest for pickleball. And I think that's really where John and the rest of the people that were in the Open Space Recreation Committee learned that there was such a need for this. They expressed how much they wanted outdoor courts and how much it was needed. And they kind of went over the use at the one over in Westboro and how we really need to be adding them in the community, not necessarily just Northborough, but pretty much every town is starting to build them. So as you look out, you know, we don't want to be left behind. We want to make sure that our population of seniors and everyone else in the community is represented in Northborough. We have the space, we own the land. I just think it's an easy way to do this for the community.
It was somewhat ironic because the survey result was not that high for pickleball. And I recall the people calling in almost to say, you know, this is wrong. You left us out. You know, pickleball is king. So it was more enthusiasm than I expected. But that's how things go sometimes. Just John, one more time. Also, at the time you first suggested it, I think I asked, had you considered putting a court or more at the senior center land because of such interest from seniors? And is that still considered? And had you considered more than one location?
We did consider the senior center land and this land, and cost-wise, it was much more cost efficient to put it at Ellsworth McAfee. We would be looking at we'd be looking at more than $100,000 more at the senior center property because we would have to clear all the land. The only place that we The only place that we can put this at the senior center would be right when you pull in to the right-hand side.
Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by.
So just it seemed like this was a lot more bang for our buck as far as, already having the property. It's already leveled out. We don't have to do a lot of site work compared to what we would have to do at the
Enter
senior
your
center.
participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise.
Scott, would you agree with that?
Yeah, we evaluated multiple locations at the senior center. The rec land, when you pull in on the right-hand side, was the only viable portion of land available. It's wooded, so the land clearing would be costly. It's also a long walk away from the closest parking. So we would have to have some accessible parking near the pickleball courts, which is very costly, adding a new driveway and parking. So the second location we looked at was here at Ellsworth McAfee. It makes logical sense. It utilizes a portion of the land that is really underutilized. When the pavilion is being used, the users of the pavilion generally stay like immediately to the left. If you look in the photograph where the tree shade is, not a lot of people use that far off area along the hedge line by the road. It's a great opportunity to put an asset into a piece of land that we own and is underutilized.
John, if I could just add, also for the members of the CPC, a lot of people think that there is this, acres of unusable land. I mean, of land that's available at the senior center, and in fact, the flat lawn that everybody thinks should be used for a multitude of purposes, to the rear of the senior center is in fact reserved land for parking. So it cannot be built on. It had to be, based on the zoning when the senior center was built, the full parking lot was not created. So that land has to stay there in reserve. At some point, the town could revisit that, but it's kind of a misnomer that people think that there's a lot of land up at the senior center that's not being used.
To expand on Kathy's point, the land behind that dedicated parking area is conservation land. There's an easement that runs adjacent to the flat parking area up through the conservation land for telecommunication gear. So that while it looks open and easy, it's complicated on paper.
Any other
Ally,
questions?
Allie, how did you determine 6 courts rather than 4 or 8 or 12 or whatever?
Just the size of the land that was available. We wanted, we tried to get as many as we could in the space that we had available. 6 seemed pretty good. So you give me a couple of years and I'll come back and ask for some more somewhere else.
I mean, to me, it looks like a great location. It looks like land that, a spot that never gets used, high visibility. So you're going to get,
Last time we used
like
that
curb
land,
appeal.
Leslie, the last time we used that land was for overflow parking when we had the fireworks there.
Oh, wow.
And that was a long time ago.
It seems absolutely perfect. And for senior, it is for seniors. It's accessible. It looks perfect to me.
So I'm in favor of it, but I guess the question I had is on certain Saturdays and Sundays during the fall and spring, parking is going to be really tight over there.
We talked about that during the planning phase. The rear gravel lot, which is rarely used because nobody really even sees it as a parking lot. They just look at it as a access road. Some additional signage regarding overflow parking, I think, would be very helpful. It's a good convenient spot for the rear soccer fields. Most people don't even know it's there and don't go back there because it looks like an access road. We can sign that so it's more obvious on heavy use weekends.
Okay.
So I have a couple questions. Will people be reserving courts? Is there got to be a reservation system, or is just
Nope, it's just open to the public. It's first come, first serve. That's the same with everything in the park, the basketball courts, the volleyball court. It will just be open to the public.
Okay. And what is the typical annual maintenance for something like this, cost-wise, or what typically has to be done to maintain?
It's coating maintenance only. We don't typically do snow removal if there's substantial snow. It's a paved surface with a special painting coating on top. So as long as you keep wheeled vehicles off of it, the coating lasts a very long time. It's similar to a tennis court.
Okay, so there is no real known expensive cost for annual maintenance?
No, you would have a typical capital expenditure every 10 years to repaint or recoat like you would any basketball court or a tennis court.
Okay.
Millie, to build on your point, this is John, and I had a question about that too, because I guess I wanted to ask, in the world of making courts, is there any improvement in surface technology? Because you typically see cracked courts over not that long of a period of time, obviously with best practice as far as the underlayment and so on, you can minimize it, but you know, the tennis courts can look pretty ugly and not too long. And you know, so anything new that you're proposing or?
Nothing new. It's a construction control that drives it. You know, cost cutting measures such as putting down an inch of binder with an inch of top looks good, saves money, and falls apart quickly.
Okay.
So treating it the way you should treat it and spending the appropriate funds for a proper foundation, you know, 8 inches of gravel burrow, compacted, proper subgrade, no loam left, and correct courses of asphalt prevents that, exactly what you're describing. In addition, proper drainage. If you have poor drainage, you get water underneath the surface and that results in your cracking. So you'll see on the estimate, while it's a conceptual estimate, there's a pretty healthy number in there for drainage to make sure we don't have those circumstances that you see elsewhere sometimes.
We want to build it the best we can because we're the ones that have to pay to maintain it.
Yeah. And it talks about fencing. Is that going to be similar to the existing fencing that's going around the park now?
It'll be 10-foot black vinyl coated chain link fence.
Okay.
Very similar to what you would see at a tennis court.
Scott, are you comfortable with the estimate? It's pretty healthy, but
it is. It is. I don't see the demo and site prep at $20,000 bearing fruit, but you never know when you're excavating and you need to get down to a suitable subgrade. Sometimes, you know, you may end up having to dig 15 inches as opposed to 8 to get the loom out of there. So I wanted to keep a healthy demo number so that we don't run into subgrade issues.
Any other questions for this project?
I guess I would assume that since one of the things that we're talking about with the other park was handicap accessibility, is that something that is already factored in?
Yes.
It is. On the estimate, you'll see the second item, pavement. That is not for the courts. That is for an accessible path that you see. As you're looking at the image, there are 2 handicap parking spaces immediately adjacent to the courts, and you'll see a dark rectangle of path heading over toward the courts, and then that path goes parallel to the courts between the hedge line and the fence. So it'll be fully handicap, wheelchair accessible.
Okay.
We did do a handicap accessible parking assessment of Ellsworth McAfee Park a handful of years ago, restriped a bunch of spots, moved some spots, added some curb cuts and access ramps. So Ellsworth McAfee is wheelchair accessible throughout.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
know our parks aren't open after dusk, but I'm wondering, are these typically lit in other
No.
communities?
No,
Okay.
A whole
they
different
generally
ballgame when
play
you
in
want
the
lighting,
morning.
right?
Sorry, John. I was just gonna say, they generally play in the morning because they don't like it when the sun is up as high as it can be.
Mm,
So they're, they generally like to play when they're outdoors. They like to play before noon, which is one of the reasons we couldn't put it at a school, because they wouldn't be able to play on the property while the kids are in school. So
right. Interesting. Yeah. Looks like fun.
it's literally the best location. I mean, it's central. There's so many people around. So God forbid anything happens. You know what I mean? There's always someone walking on the track or in the parking lot or in the pavilion. And I just feel like, you know, it's so visible and accessible that it's just the perfect spot.
I like
I would agree.
the idea of bringing, you could bring your children to their soccer practice and have a couple matches of pickleball while they're out there doing soccer. I mean, instead of sitting around watching them pick the ball into a little net, you can actually get some exercise.
I love it.
I have a question on page 3 under the budget. It's the last item, and maybe I'm just not familiar with how things are written up, but what is a mobilization overhead and profit element? I guess I haven't
So
seen
when
that.
you have a construction package, a construction bid package, the contractors price out the materials, price out the labor, paying prevailing wages. You get all the way to the bottom. They've itemized all of their hard costs in materials purchasing and soft costs of labor. And at the bottom, they have to pay to get to the site. They have to cover overhead, which is the people in the office. And then they need to make a little bit of money. So contractors want to make some money.
Oh, that's under the contractors. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Contractor. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Well,
Any
I
other
hope you
members
guys-
want
oh.
to queue in?
I want to thank you guys for all of your support for the rec projects that you've done over the years. And I really hope that you take this one in consideration, because I think that this is going to be a really good one for the community.
Very well. I suspect we'll dive in and consider potentially voting on it yet tonight. It's not much on the agenda, and so you're welcome to stick around.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend we talk about the overall budget here for a minute. But just once again, any other member want to ask anything on this? Otherwise, we'll move forward.
I'll just add that I think it's a great project, great location, and I look forward to seeing it built.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I do see Andy Clark in the list of attendees. Oh,
There he is.
there he
I see
is.
him now.
There he is.
Can't see him visually quite yet. Andy, are you with us in voice? Hello? Not yet. Oh, look at that. I can see you, Andy. You got to unmute. There you go.
I did. I'm sorry. I was
Hello.
there in the background, but I was not. I was in the listening thing. I wasn't in the screen here. So sorry about that, and I apologize. But it sounds like a great project, and I'm all for it.
Thanks, Andy.
Just in the nick of time.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Sure.
I'll
Thanks
just
for being-
hang out in the background if you have any other questions.
So I want to share my screen. And I want to know if you guys can see that.
Yep.
No, that's not the screen I wanted to share. Here we go.
John, you looking, do you want to put up the budget or?
I have a spreadsheet that
Okay.
I can see. It says you're now sharing your screen, but it's not.
I think we have to, I think we have to do something to let you share.
Well, it's interesting. It shared the image that says open space inventory, but that's not the one I wanted.
I think you have to share your whole desktop instead of just a specific window.
Okay.
I just don't know. It's my screen.
For John Campbell to recognize if he wants to.
Hey, John,
So
as you're
you can
doing,
make him aware of it.
as you're doing this, Rick Leaf has his hand up, and I don't know if Rick is, if he has a question about pickleball or, but we can see that Rick's got his hand up,
Very good.
and it is a public hearing.
I will. I see him. I don't know that I'm doing it right to select him. I'm gonna click off this. I'm gonna try this. Am I co-hosting or is Jim handling it?
Yep. You want me to allow Rick to talk, John?
Yes, please.
Okay. There you
Thank
go.
you. Rick, are you with us? Rick Leaf, are you with us?
Well,
Muted.
Rick is muted, but he needs to unmute if you'd like to ask a question.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Yes, Rick. How are you?
Good. So through this whole session so far, I haven't seen myself on the screen, so I wasn't sure if I was actually part of the meeting. And then the agenda indicated after Ally's presentation that the Housing Corporation was next. I was wondering why we skipped to open space. I was just concerned that I wasn't really part of the meeting. Am I still part of the meeting?
You're part, Rick. We didn't skip anything. I shared the wrong screen and we were not jumping to the third application. We're jumping to a review of the overall budget for the CPC.
Okay, but should I be able to see myself as one of the images on the screen? I can see everybody else. I can see Ally and the rest of the members,
Yeah,
but usually when I join these things, I see myself, but.
I can't help you unless at the lower screen that you haven't shared video. I just don't know.
Yeah, we can see your block, Rick. We just can't see you don't seem to have your video on.
Yeah. Well, no, Rick is an attendee right now. He's not a panelist. We can bring him in as a panelist if there's an agenda item that he is speaking to.
I kind of thought that's what it was. So you can wait to bring me in till I'm ready to present at the meeting. I don't have to be in next. I was just concerned I wasn't really connected to the meeting.
Yeah, you
You're
are
there now,
here and
so
present,
you're-
and if there's an agenda item that
Rick is
the
welcome to
chair-
join as a panelist now or in the future. Rick,
Okay.
we're going to get to the affordable housing in just about 5 minutes.
Okay,
So
I'm
why don't
all
we-
set. That's the reason I raised my hand.
Okay. And
Okay.
now I want to share my screen. Am I able to do that from?
you should be able to, yeah.
Very good. And I'm going to now say share screen. I guess it looks at all my screens. Okay, I've got a spreadsheet. Does everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Usually when we're together, we have a poster board and we start making a recording of what we got to spend, what we got left. So I wanted to review that and dig right into it, and then we can determine if we want to move forward and vote right away on the recreational application. Briefly, to present the spreadsheet, Jason Little advised us to plan on 652,000 of new revenue, which makes our 10% minimum allocation for the three areas at 65.2. And then across the top line where it says funds available, I listed the available reserves that we are to allocate. And if you recall from his presentation, what's available to us is, I think it's the reserves after fiscal 2020, not necessarily the reserves from fiscal 21 because it's not done. So at any rate, there's $813 in the open space reserve. There's $313 in the affordable housing reserve. There's $25,821 in the historical resources reserve. And there's $698,029 in the unreserved fund. We know that we have to fund the White Cliffs bond. And so I went ahead and put that in at the 203,780 number. And we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, and I don't know if Kathy wants to chime in again on it, but should we round it up just because it's a round number, or should I pick the number off his spreadsheet? Because that was the line item he had.
Sorry.
But at any rate, we know, I mean, I guess technically it could come from anywhere, but I think we agreed previously that we should be paying the White Cliffs out of new revenue. So the bottom line is already calculated to deduct for anything we put in above. And so it leaves us 448,220 in new revenue. Does everybody follow that so far? Just so I'm not going too fast. We also know that we typically end up deciding to fund the admin fund at our maximum, which is 5%. And that would be 32.6. I'm going to type it in. That also comes from new revenue. We also know that we have to fund each area at the 10% minimum. Well, the White Cliffs takes care of the historical. We know that. We have 2 applications in open space and rec that would cover it should we approve one or both of those. We know we need a 10% minimum in an affordable housing. I'm going to type that number in this line. That has to come from new revenue as well. The NAHC's request is only 50,000, so we can talk about that in just a minute. It leaves us with 350 in new revenue. And we have the rec application is 290. The third application for the conservation fund is 400. That's 690. Obviously, you can't cover it all under new revenue. However, we still have the $698 plus in available unreserved.
Can you hear me, John? This is Rick Leaf.
Hello, Rick Leaf.
Where's the $450,000 of existing reserved affordable housing money from past years?
We don't put it in our deliberations here because it's already allocated. So let's just say I leave it to you to keep track of that, and you typically bring it forth every year. But
it's not buried in that 698 unreserved number. It's separate from it. That's
correct. The unreserved fund are all unallocated previous year-over-year CPA revenue.
And where was last year's 10% for affordable housing? Which column did that end up in?
It is in the affordable housing reserve. but because of a quirk, it was allocated at town meeting for fiscal 21, and fiscal 21's not done, so we are advised not to utilize it to pay for the current projects we're approving now, if that makes sense. But it's there.
So in give or take, it was about someplace between $60,000 and $70,000 last year.
It was
John, isn't it 62,350?
yes, I just found it on this sheet.
So Rick,
Projects voted projects voted FY 2021.
So not showing on the spreadsheet is $450,000 of affordable housing money allocated at prior town meetings, and whatever that last number Kathy said is of last year's 10%. That's all someplace buried in here for affordable housing, just not showing up on this spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's basically, Rick, it's in a separate account allocated, through the funding agreements,
Right.
Allocated specifically to the Northborough Affordable Housing Committee.
So being more specific, Rick, the affordable housing reserve is 62,663. But technically, so but only 313 of it is technically available to us tonight. Again, per advice of the town finance manager.
Okay.
And the other 450 is previously voted money that by agreement is in the town's bank for you. You understand that, of course.
Yeah, I was just concerned I didn't see it on the spreadsheet. Okay, then that makes, because my presentation coming up gets into some of this, so I just wanted to make sure it was somewhere. Thanks, Joe.
No trouble.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
Okay. So just to do a little math for you, since I have this beautiful spreadsheet, if we were to decide to approve the recreations application at 290, 230, and we have to pay White Cliffs, and we know we have to do a minimum 65.2 from new revenue to affordable housing somewhere, and we know we're going to fund the admin fund at 5%. We're left with 60,190 new revenue. But of course, have not touched the unreserved fund. So at this point, I welcome member input, feedback, comment on how we feel we might move forward. And then the reason I did this is in the event members feel we have enough information to discuss approval of the recreation application, or if members feel they want to defer it to a future meeting and extend the hearing. So I welcome any comment.
I feel I'm comfortable.
I would also feel comfortable. I'm ready to recommend approval for that.
John, can you hear me?
John, yes.
I'm more than happy with the proposal. I want to say, when we went in, what was it, voting at middle school, Allie brought us out there and turned on the lights via her phone. And the projects that we've been able to approve and Parks and Rec with DPW have got done, to me, it's why we have the CPC. That the lights went on at the middle school, it was like astounding. It was phenomenal. And that field is amazing for all youth groups. pickleball at Ellsworth McAfee opens it up again to different user groups, which I think is critically important for recreation. Not, we do a lot of focus on kids, but pickleball for all ages and at that location, I wholeheartedly approve. I think it's an amazing project.
I agree.
Well, I would back you up, going way back to the beginning of the CPA being presented to the town and garnering town support, the original surveys done, and then even the feedback we got after the ballot vote was overwhelmingly in support of the CPA for open space and recreation primarily, even though we've expanded its use. And, that was backed up by the more recent survey for the new open space and rec plan. And secondly, we pitched it to the town as a way to achieve projects and minimizing the need for the town to pay for it out of other capital budget, that it would augment the town's ability to build projects. And you're absolutely right. We've come through and done it on many occasions.
I'm ready to vote on the project as well.
So John, are you looking for a motion at this point?
I would say first, any other member that wants to discuss the project and its merits, or its effect on the budget, and otherwise, I'd entertain a motion. And you should specify from which revenues, from which source it would be paid.
Well, then I would move approval of the pickleball project as presented to this meeting, for $290,230 out of new revenue.
Second.
Who was the second?
Give it to Sean. He spoke so eloquently and
thank you for that. Any further discussion then before we vote?
No.
Therefore, I'll call for a vote of approval on the Recreation Department application for the pickleball courts at $250,000. I'm sorry, 230,000? Do I have that wrong? Is there a 5?
Actually,
Is that a 5?
it should be,
It's 250.
it should 250. I'll amend the motion to say $290,250.
Thank you. That was my typo. All right, let's vote on approval. I will take a roll call. I need a verbal answer. Peter?
Yes.
Jeff?
yes.
Leslie?
Absolutely.
Millie?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
John is a yes.
Good.
It is so approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the support from the committee as always. Thank you very much.
Looks like a fun project.
Yeah.
Oh, but I didn't ask you during the presentation, but should it get through town meeting, whenever that might be, what do you believe the timing could be? How quickly could it be started?
Well, the bidding process has to wait till after design. Design begins July 1 when the funds are available. Depending on the winter months, I would love to be able to get out there and use the facility, around the holidays, depending on when winter sets in. Spring will be reestablishing grass and doing plantings. So the expectation, the best expectation is holidays. Worst is the following spring. So we'll push it along as we do with all the projects.
Excellent. Thanks again. Good presentation.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.
At this point, let's move on to the second application, the Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation. We know Rick is around, so chime back in, Rick. And you have the floor. Rick Leaf of the Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation. You guys know the movie The Sound of Music, right? At the end when the Von Trapps coming back on the stage.
They're gone.
The family, Rick Leaf. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. They're gone.
I'm trying to click my start video here to get my face up on the screen.
Sorry, I just
Oh, here I
watched that
am.
movie about 8 times during the holidays.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me before you again this year. I appreciate it. As does the entire Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation and the rest of us involved with affordable housing. As I've done in the past, before we talk about the application itself, I'd just like to give you some updates as to what's been going on with projects that we've completed, where we're currently working on, and some things that look like they're on the horizon for the future here, and then we'll talk about the application. Some of you are probably aware, if not, I want to bring you up to speed on the fact that Preservation Massachusetts has recognized the project we did on Main Street on the Gale General Store as a recipient of their Robert H. Keene Jr. Award. Norm Corbin sort of spearheaded the effort to propose that project to Preservation Massachusetts. They award different preservation efforts every year in the state that they feel are worthy of recognition. And Norm felt the job that was done between the town and the Housing Corporation, Habitat for Humanity, deserved consideration. And we submitted an application and were informed late in the summer that we had been awarded this Robert H. Keene Jr. Award. I'll just read to you what it says here on a draft of the certificate we're going to be getting. It's Preservation Massachusetts is honored to present the Robert H. Keene Award to the redevelopment of the historic Gale Store for affordable housing in Northborough in recognition of projects that meld collaborative partnerships with creative and cutting-edge ideas for the rehabilitation and active reuse of historic buildings. Preservation Massachusetts recognizes the exemplary efforts of Habitat for Humanity, Metro West Greater Worcester, Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation, Trinity Church, the town of Northborough, Assabet Valley Regional Technical High School, Algonquin Regional High School, and the dedicated team members. Certainly a combination of the work that was done to restore that property, as well as the partnership that was formed between all of these different organizations, sort of made this stand out as a great example of what this Keene Award is all about. We've asked for multiple copies of the certificates. Our intention to have one for Habitat for Humanity, which they can use for their future publicity. We'll have a certificate that will go to the town of Northborough. We'll leave it up to John and Kathy to decide where to display that. The Housing Corporation will get one. We'll have a certificate for both of the schools also, one for Assabet and one for Algonquin. But we're just very pleased to see that we're able to get this recognition. They normally have a big meeting and a dinner in Boston in October every year at the Copley Plaza to award these things. That wasn't possible. So they did a whole series of virtual presentations online. And one day we had sort of the virtual platform to ourselves. Debbie Maruka Hoke, the executive director at Habitat, and myself taped a thank you sort of message that was then shown. Lots of pictures and slides of the project were shown, and we got a lot of publicity across the state of Massachusetts for what we did here. And I got some good feedback from other towns about it. So once again, thank you once again to the CPC. 50% of this project was funded through community preservation money. Without that, none of this would have been possible. So I think it's a great recognition that all of us got working together. And once again, the Housing Corporation is very appreciative of the support that the CPC gave to this project, and just wanted to let you know the recognition it's received. So that sort of ties a nice bow on that particular project.
Yes, it was.
Currently, We had come to you last year to ask for funding for the renovation of 24 Hitching Post Lane. The proposal was that the Housing Corporation would fund the first $25,000 of the renovation cost, which is going to run a little bit less than $100,000. And the CPC agreed to fund the next $50,000 with community preservation money. That project is underway. I was speaking to Debbie at Habitat for Humanity yesterday, and basically through the COVID pandemic, they've had a lack of ability to get their volunteers on site. Also, their own staff has been working between that project and a project in Holliston, so they've made some progress. But their plan is in the next 3 months, they hope to complete the project. The Housing Corporation has paid about $12,000 worth of invoices so far. We expect over the next month to 6 weeks to probably be paying the balance of our $25,000, and probably sometime by the end of the first quarter, early in the second quarter, we'll be presenting invoices to the town for the reimbursement of the next $50,000. But that's where that project stands right now. The goal was to try and complete it before the end of 2020, but the pandemic just sort of threw a monkey wrench into all of that. But work will really start to ramp up on that again as we get into the end of this month and into February, March, and probably the beginning of April. So that's where 24 Hitching Post stands. 15 Hitching Post was the other affordable condominium that was in foreclosure on that property. Kathy, through the planning office, as well as Habitat and DHCD, have been working with the bank that owns that property to see what their plan is. On 24 Hitching Post, the bank that owned that property eventually turned around and donated it to Habitat. Right now, DHCD has set a maximum sale price of that property at $146,000. So the bank has either the choice to go in and fix the damage that was done while the property was unoccupied. At one point, the water hadn't been shut off in time, and there was some water damage in there. So the bank is either going to have to make that property habitable and then work through DHC guidelines to offer that to a qualified low-income family, or they could choose to sell it to someone who would do that, or they could choose to donate it to Habitat. I mentioned to Debbie that if in fact the bank gets to the point where they don't want any more part of the property and they're willing to donate it, as the bank did for 24, that she ought to give me a proposal as to what the renovation cost would be. And if the Housing Corporation thought that was reasonable, we'd come back to you guys and propose funding a part of that renovation project. But we're not going to get involved unless it's a donation. It's not our intention to spend $146,000 for that unit and then go ahead and spend more money to renovate it. So Debbie and I have agreed that we'd only get involved if in fact the bank finally gets to the point where they'll donate the property. But at this point, they haven't given any indication they want to do that. So we'll keep watching it. I know, like I said, Kathy's been in contact with people at DHCD that they're interested in turning it around to a qualifying low-income family. And they've been working with the town to see what interest the town has. So between Habitat and Kathy and the Housing Corporation, we'll keep our eyes open. But at this point, we're not actively pursuing it. Recently, the Grange Hall on 10 School Street came up for sale. We were interested in that. It's a historic piece of property. We weren't sure what condition it was in, but after it went on the market, we talked to the realtor and the owner, and they allowed the Housing Corporation and Habitat for Humanity to go in and tour the property. The owner of the property had submitted a plan to the town to convert the Grange Hall into 4 small apartments. His plan was to use it for income property. He passed away before any of that was approved. His son now owns the property. The son has no intention on creating 4 apartments in there, but the plan that they gave us a copy of was a good roadmap to how we could work with Habitat to put 4 affordable units in that building. The property was on the market for $345,000. That plus the renovation cost was going to make it difficult to come in at a reasonable cost. So we had not expressed right off the bat any interest in that property, but we let the realtor know that if the property languished on the market and the owner was becoming more impatient to sell, we'd be interested in talking about either a donation that might be a tax advantage to the owner or a significantly reduced purchase price. But my understanding is, in talking to the realtor 2 days ago, there is now a purchase and sale agreement on the property. Norm told me that his understanding is the owner is going to try and convert it into a single family home. So right now, although we've done some research into that and we have sort of a basic plan as to what could be done, right now the property is not on the market. I just left it with the realtor that if for some reason this falls through, we'd be interested in keeping an eye on it. This is the second time it's been on the market. Originally, a group of people were going to buy it and turn it into a Montessori school. They had a tentative purchase and sale on the property, and when they got in there and saw what needed to be done, the renovation cost was too extreme and they backed out. I'm hopeful that the person who's going to try and do a single family home here will maintain the exterior appearance of the building, but there's no guarantee, that will happen. So it's just another example of kind of things we're doing in the background to keep track of what's available in the town and how we might have an opportunity. This one, I'm going to say right now, is not an opportunity, but just to give you a heads up, if it comes back on the market and we can negotiate some attractive acquisition price, Habitat does have a plan that they could turn it into affordable condominiums. So that's kind of a back burner project right now. We continued to talk about open land on Village Drive, where the one of the senior center facilities is managed by the Housing Authority. There is some open land between two of the buildings. We've had a couple of meetings with DHCD. They are not opposed to creating another building there with probably 8 more units for low-income seniors, but they have no interest in creating or owning any more public housing. The only way they would get involved would be to have a private developer come in and do something. The problem is going to be with private development, it's going to be difficult to get the rentals low enough to attract the people who are on the waiting list for that kind of housing. So I've been talking to people at MHP, the Mass Housing Partnership, to see if there's any kind of an alternative that could be done. I can tell you that at a Zoom session that they ran a couple of weeks ago, they indicated that DHCD's #1 priority is to create rental housing for low-income families and seniors. So this project would hit that sweet spot. Unfortunately, the state itself isn't willing to go ahead and construct another building. Our plan would be, if they were willing to do that, we'd come back to you and discuss the possibility of dedicating some community preservation funds to offset the cost of that project, but it ended up becoming public housing, which in fact the state could then use to get people off that waiting list. But the feedback, the state doesn't want to create any more housing, but they're more than happy to allow a private developer to come in and do something. And we could serve as that, but we haven't quite figured out if we did that, how we could get the rents low enough to get people off that waiting list. So we're continuing to pursue that. I've got another phone call scheduled with MHP for next week. We'll keep going down that. There is land available to do something there. We met with the Housing Authority Board a year or so ago, and they were in favor of doing it. And I think the state would be in favor of doing it as long as they don't build the building. So we'll have to see where that goes.
Rick, what property was that?
So if you go to Village Drive, the Housing Authority property on Village Drive, and you drive down towards the end of the parking, you'll see there's a big grassy area between two of the buildings there.
Okay.
And there's room to put up another building, probably a building big enough to hold 8 additional rental units the size of which they already have over there. There's also a need for more handicapped accessible. Lynn Trombley, who's the Housing Authority Director, has said anything we did over there should also include, if not all, most to be handicapped accessible, because she has an issue with that with their current units, which could all be done. So there's a need, there's a waiting list, there's land that's available. When we did the first project over there at Center Drive, basically the state leased the land to us for $750 a year. So we assumed there'd be a minimal acquisition cost of the land. The question would be how to get a building up in a cost-effective manner to get the rents low enough so the people on the waiting list could be affected. The people who are in the people in the building that we built on Center Drive, the rent right now is $750 a month. We originally rented for $850 a month. We've been able, over the course of the last, since 2014, to reduce the rent to $750 a month as we've seen what the expenses are. And that hits a good portion of the low to medium income seniors. But the people who are on Lynn's waiting list are extremely low income seniors. They have vouchers or they have subsidies from the state. And even $750 a month is more than people on that waiting list can afford, even though $750 a month for new construction apartments is quite a deal in Metro West. It still doesn't hit that waiting list. So we don't want to build another building and not be able to get at the waiting list at this point. So there's more work that needs to be done, but it's something we continue to pursue over there. And you see it comes every time I send you an application, you'll see there's a paragraph that talks about that exact project. I just want to let you know we haven't given up on it, but so far nothing has come to pass. And there's a definite need for it. And the state has indicated that's the number one priority is to have that kind, I guess, the number one priority isn't to build that kind of stuff. The number one priority is to have somebody else build that kind of stuff, and they're willing to give tax credits and incentives, but they don't want to build it and own it.
Okay.
So, and I keep talking to Kathy over time about the town-owned land on Boundary Street. It still seems like right now that's being reserved for the possibility of sewage treatment at some point. The town doesn't have a particular interest right now in doing anything with that land, but all it would take be 1 or 2 acres of that Boundary Street property. We could get in there with Habitat and do some pretty neat new construction, affordable housing. So we're just waiting to see if something ever develops over there. And then the other thing that's going on is the Westboro State Hospital property in Northborough. I know Kathy's told me she's had some contact with the state. There's a building there. I'm not sure that'd be appropriate for us, but there's also acreage. And that's another place that if the town became the owners of that acreage, that'd be another great place to put in some units working with somebody like Habitat. So those are things that are just also being followed. And I guess the last thing I'll mention is the master plan is complete. An implementation committee has been formed. I volunteered to be a member of the master plan implementation committee. There's a fairly substantial housing section in the master plan, and something could break out of there that could be appropriate to use CPA funding for also. So although 24 Hitching Post is the only thing that's actively going on right now, there's a whole bunch of shorter term and longer term things on the horizon there that could break at some point. So before I get into the application, just any questions about kind of what we're doing or what we think we might be doing in the future? All right, so the application probably looks pretty familiar to you at this point. There are 2 parts to the application. The first part is to talk about the $450,000 that's remaining in the Housing Corporation Reserve. It was $500,000 going into 2020, and then you guys generously allocated $50,000 to go towards the 24 Hitching Post Lane project. So that leaves $450,000 remaining. And all of that $450,000 comes from town meetings that were more than 2 years ago. And based on our agreement, the money is only good for 2 years and it needs to be renewed every year. And so part of this application is asking you to consider renewing the $450,000 for another year, make it effective, effective July 1st, 21, which would carry it forward, through fiscal year 22. So that's one part of the application. The other part of the application is asking for $50,000 to replenish the $50,000 we spent on Hitching Post Lane, just to bring the reserve back to $500,000. I think we've talked in the past about $500,000 would be a good number to sort of keep in reserve for future opportunities as they come up. So basically the application, although it kind of goes on for a few pages, the net of it is we're asking to extend the existing 450 for another year and to add 50,000 of new money to bring it back to 500,000. Last year, we did not apply for any money because we had 500,000 at this time last year. We hadn't had this Hitching Post Lane opportunity in front of us yet. We said that the 10% didn't need to go to NEHC last year. It could just go into some general affordable housing reserve. And we continue to feel that way. With this master plan going forward, once again, there could be things coming out of the master plan separate from the housing corporation that might be able to use some of this funding that's being set aside in the housing reserve separate from the NHC reserve. So although that, I think the number Kathy said was 62,663 was put in there from last year, our advice would be not to touch that money, but to take the 50,000 out of this year's money. And as I guess John said, the 62,500, the 10% would cover. So I guess the 50,000 could come from that 62,500. And I'm open to any questions, comments.
Rick, it's am I unmuted? Yes. Rick, great summary. It's good to hear of so many potential projects in the mix, and congratulations again on the awards for the Main Street programs. It's good stuff. It seems very valid that we would move forward approvals for the remaining 450 that comes out of 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 allocations, if I read your thing right.
Yeah.
And so I think you're asking us to try to cover that with a vote, and we might as well do it tonight. Did everybody, excuse me, do the other members understand that? And if so, could someone make a motion?
What is the language? I guess is a Kathy question. What is the language that we continue to make available, or what will be the language for that motion?
It just needs to be moved a year. It goes from year to year. So if you just move it to, or extend the use of the funds to July of 2021.
Rick's got some good language on the bottom of the last page of his presentation.
Last page, last paragraph.
Oh yeah, the last couple sentences.
Yeah. So if you read the second half of the sentence, that could be a motion. You only want this extended until this July?
Well, I'm assuming that this is how the memo's been written every year. I'm assuming that basically extending the money to July 1st, 2021 then makes it available in fiscal year 22. So as opposed to saying, because that's the fiscal year it's in, if we extend it to July 1, 2022, it's in the wrong fiscal year.
Okay, that's fair enough. I would suggest those last words, so that it be included in fiscal 22, be part of the motion.
And so we're just making a motion for the extension of the money at this point in time, or should I make the combination motion?
No, I'm requesting, I would recommend a motion only on the extension part.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we extend until July 1st, 2021, 450,000 of the prior approved funding that was expiring on July 1st, 2020.
Second.
That was Jeff.
Yes.
For second. Thank you, Jeff. Very good. So this is a vote on extending 450,000 in existing funding already approved but held by the town to be available for the coming fiscal year 22. I need a verbal vote, starting with Peter,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
Millie,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
Todd,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
John, yes. So we are 8-0 to approve the extending of the funding. Now, I will bring back up my my sheet and share it just for this part of the discussion, which is me doing what? Doing sharing screen. Where happened? Right. I'm back. Got the option anymore. Here we go. It's just me being stupid. Okay, so once again, we need to allocate a minimum 10% to affordable housing category. That number 65.2. Rick's application from the NHE requests 50. Does any member have a suggestion for how we might accomplish both? This is not hard.
Can't we make a motion to finance the 50,000 out of current funds, and then we make another motion to put $15,200 in the unreserved, in the affordable housing reserve? There'd be two motions.
That is one suggestion.
Can we just add that to the 50? The 12?
Be 15.2 additional.
Yeah.
What do you mean by add to it, Millie?
Well, we're off by what, 1250, is that correct? 62?
We're the application is 50,000. The 10% minimum is 65.2.
65.2. Yes, that's what I meant. Sorry.
So what is your suggestion?
I don't know if it's possible to go above what they're asking for.
Is that your suggestion?
Criteria.
Go forth with your idea.
To add to allot 65.2 instead of the 50,000. Is that?
That's another good idea.
Yep, that could be your motion, Millie.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure how to do that.
Yep.
Can we give them more than we're asking? They're asking?
I'll second her motion.
Okay.
But, okay.
So there's a motion to if I understand it right, the motion is simply to increase the award, increase the recommendation for a town meeting warrant article to be an amount of 65.2 instead of 50,000.
Out of the
motion
reserve.
Yes.
From new
reserve
revenue.
money.
No, it has to be, we need to make the minimum from new revenue, remember. So Millie, would you mind restating your motion just so we have that part clear?
I make a motion to increase the amount of requests to 65,200 from new revenue or the housing fund.
I'll second that motion.
That was Peter?
Jeff.
No,
Can I just insert, can the motion be clear that it's for the Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation Reserve, something like that?
Yeah.
We're talking about your application, Rick, so it's clear.
Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I would just like to, I mean, Rick had made an inference that there might be something coming out, that there should be funds in the or it was a potential that the Affordable Housing Reserve be funded because of some potential projects that may come out of the master plan. So I guess, not that he's ever going to say no to cash, but was it, it sounded like he wanted money to go into there as well if fees are, so maybe Rick, you could clarify a little bit. I mean, again, I know you're not saying no to cash, but.
Yeah, I think that the idea that we talked about this at the Housing Corporation Board meeting last year, and we decided not to submit a recommendation for any new funding in 2020, that probably the first thing that's going to come out of any discussions about housing in the master plan implementation committee is probably going to be some sort of a study or consultant work or something, as opposed to actually going out and buying or building something. And so that 10%, that, once again, the number Kathy said, the 62,663 that was put in there last year, I think should be sufficient to cover any kind of initial administrative or consulting work. And then whatever the committee comes up with would have to sort of stand on its own for its own kind of funding. So I think the idea was to put some money in there to at least give the committee, if they want to do something about housing, a study or an evaluation or something, there was some money to draw from to do it. So I think that last year's 10% covers that. And, you know, more likely over the next couple of years, probably any efforts to build any more or renovate any housing is probably going to come from the corporation. So putting the full 65,200 into the corporation fund, you know, probably makes sense. This is just me speaking, not the board. But I would say that if the master plan committee comes up with a project that makes a lot of sense for housing, me being a member of the committee and a member of the board, I would propose to the board that we could go back and propose to you guys that we take some of the money out of the NEHC fund to help fund some of this project coming out of the master plan. Now, I say that as me, Rick Leaf. I have not been Northborough Housing Corporation board, but my sense would be if the next big housing project that made sense, affordable housing project made sense, was coming out of the implementation committee, and if that $62,000 wasn't enough, and it had to be some combination of new money from the town, plus using some of this money that had been squirreled away for the housing corporation, I can't imagine the housing corporation would stand in the way of a meaningful affordable housing project. So that's another reason why I think if we put the whole 65,200 into the housing corporation reserve, that wouldn't be a problem. But I just want to clarify what I'm saying, because this is Rick Leaf talking here, and it's not the NHC board talking. But I'm just talking, I think, what the board would say.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. We know where you're coming from. Okay. Any other comment? If not, I'll call for a vote on this motion, which is increasing the NAHC application to 65,200, and that would be the warrant article, and it would go to the NAHC again under town agreement. I need a verbal vote. Peter?
Aye.
Jeff?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Millie?
Aye.
Sean?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
John, yes. Thank you again, Rick, for all you do for Northborough.
And thank you. Yeah, thank you for your support, not just tonight, but, you know, through the years here. I think that what the CPA has been able to do to support housing is made a big difference for what we've been able to do. So thank you for tonight, and thank you for what you've done in the past. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. We'll keep it going. Okay, 8:38-ish. Let's keep it going. The next application is from the Open Space Committee, so I'm changing hats. I am now the Open Space Committee presenter. You're going to have to listen to me. Come on, baby. So on the screen, hopefully you see a map entitled Open Space Inventory. I'd like to make a brief presentation where I go through our current status of open space, conservation land, et cetera, and also bring you in some of the input we got from the town in the open space survey, and bring you around to what we've done recently with allocations for conservation money and what the current state of the conservation fund is. So if you can see this, I'm going to scroll slightly. The legend is confusing, but just let me tell you this. When you see a parcel that is colored with a solid color, it means it is already protected land in perpetuity. But you see a lot of other combinations, and some of them are farmland, for instance, where we have a so-called Chapter 61 restriction and certain other agricultural restrictions. For the most part, the large farms in Northborough, Tugas, Davidian, and so on, are protected in a couple ways. The other areas to look at are, I'm just going to use my mouse and circle a couple. These are Chapter 61 protected parcels. These are owners who receive a tax break under the Chapter 61 provision, wherein, should they decide to sell someday, the town has right of first refusal. It's these kinds of parcels that typically require fast action by the town should, for some reason, those owners decide to move a portion or all of their land. A developer is pushing them to sell. Circumstances change. The Open Space Committee has active outreach, and for the most part, we have been in touch with the property owners at different stages in all of these kinds of parcels. But they are the potential where we may need to move quickly, and that's where the Conservation Fund has been very effective over the last 6 or 7 years in helping fund the Shunderland, for one, helping fund the additional silver parcel on Mount Pisgah, helping fund other small parcels abutting Mount Pisgah, and most recently, the property up on the top of Howard Street that cost nearly $400,000, and that's just transacted over the last year. So I wanted to give you that for some perspective. The yellow parcels here at the bottom of the map are the two golf courses, Juniper Hills being well known, and Indian Meadow in the portion that's in Northborough. There's never been an indication recently that Juniper Hills is going anywhere, but you don't know. The Indian Meadow land, a little more iffy, but we've reached out to that owner, not in the last year, but over the prior couple of years. They indicated that they actually like having the golf course property as part of their facility there. They know that Northborough is interested, should there be a time when they want to move the land. It's come up often, and it's on the radar, but wanted to give you an overview of the potential in Northborough, because often the committee asks, what might be on the horizon. The next thing on your screen, hopefully you're looking at something that says Q13. This is several of the questions that I pulled out from the Open Space and Recreation Survey. And I pulled out the ones that were directly related to open space and conservation land. And in this one, you see it says, how important is it to you to preserve and maintain the following? And of course, you know, with these surveys, people are giving a scale of how important it is. But it was interesting. The largest number of respondents thought it was very important to maintain open space for water conservation, wildlife corridors, scenic resources, passive recreation. I guess I'm not telling you anything that you don't know if you're a resident of Northborough, but nonetheless, it was good to see it reinforced by the respondents. There were nearly 500 respondents, by the way. The next question, what town actions do you favor to preserve open space? Well, the survey was worded and we did approve the wording. Some of it is a little bit of a dream. In other words, one of the highest respondents was donations of land. Well, sometimes we have gotten donations of land, or at least donations of conservation restrictions. The Rostron property being one that comes to mind. However, when the Rostrons were ready to give more land, they didn't want to give it up so much for free. So that was over, I think it was almost 500,000 in cost to the town. We were able to fund it from conservation money, but we also got a grant. So that was fortuitous there. Purchase of land is the number 3. Zoning for open space conservation was important. And of course, there may be options where the town can negotiate with developers to give some open space. And that's happened before. The next question, question 15, please indicate your support for town funding for the following objectives. The highest number of respondents were for expanding connections and walkways and connectivity between existing trails. And seeing this, it brings to mind, I had a comment by an open space committee member, Brian Belfer, who's also very active in the Trails Committee. And he told me, among his own observations and those of the other Trails Committee members, that they believe use of the trails during this past year has more than tripled from what you would normally see. And if you've gone outside at all to walk, I think you can agree, there's a lot more people taking advantage of the trails in town. It's great to see. For the most part, everyone's courteous to and clean and helpful, and it's just great to see the town enjoying it. So there's never, you know, he said to me that there could never be a time when the need for more potential conserved land would be stronger. This question 16 was in the survey. Would you support an increased CPA surcharge to implement any of the objectives? More than half said yes. I wanted to tell you about a conversation we had in one of the open space meetings about this, and some members thought this was a bit of an indicator that we should try to increase the 1.5% surcharge that we have. I will tell you that I advocated against it. I've always felt like we shouldn't mess with what works. We've had good acceptance of the CPA in town, and way back in the beginning, we thought that splitting the middle instead of 3% going for 1.5% was a way to get it easily accepted in town. And that seems to carry over year. So if any member wants to comment on this at this time, I open up my presentation for that. If anyone agrees or disagrees with what I just said.
I think it would be, a difficult, I guess it would be a difficult conversation, especially if we didn't have, a project or something that we could say, hey, this is, we want to buy Tugas Farms out, or something like that, where it's a strong project and a strong, would have strong support, so that it made it necessary, because I don't feel that people, right now they've come accustomed to it, and to come through and say, hey, we're going to take some more money, especially not that Northborough has been hit, unreasonably hard, but I I don't think anyone is thinking they need to spend more at this point in time in their lives for, for something that doesn't have a less than clear project behind it.
Yeah, we can't point to anything and say, well, if it had been higher, we could have done such and such. We've always managed to pull off everything we've wanted to do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree with
I
that.
agree with
point,
that.
Leslie.
So was that Millie?
Remember,
Yeah, that was me.
No, I didn't hear what you said though.
I agree with that. And I also think that this year, this time might be a difficult time to even think about things like that for a lot of the residents in town.
Agree with that.
yeah, agreed. And the point I made too was when we have needed more than we had in reserves, we've gone to the town for borrowing against the CPA, and we've been successful with that on the Shunder land that's been paid off. And now we're doing it for White Cliffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of impressed at that time of the White Cliffs vote that it had the support that it had. And I think it's an indicator that the town would have the stomach to do that through the CPA. Something about it that might seem like it makes voters feel easier, that they feel like it's getting funded, and it is from a state match, as opposed to another borrowing initiative that,
Yeah.
you're right. So anyway, it was my feedback to the Open Space Committee that I don't think we should be messing with that surcharge percentage at this time. So, of course, you take the survey results and citizen feedback, and that's what contributes to the goals that you put into the plan. And basically, this page is telling you what I just told you. Goal number 1 with objective 1A is to acquire through fee acquisition or conservation restriction more open space. I want to pop this up briefly. This was part of last year's town meeting presentation, and it has been some of the others that I've done. It is not exact numbers, mind you, because sometimes I'm confused which fiscal year I pulled from, but it's a pretty good representation that we've been heavy in open space recreation historically, and more recently heavy in historical preservation. We're coming on in affordable housing. Not even thirds, but not too bad. And our available uncommitted reserves is higher than I show there. This also does not represent last town meeting's votes, but we had a big Assabet Park initiative, so on. So the last slide I wanted to put up, I reconfigured Jason's spreadsheet to show the current balance of the conservation fund and chronologically backward. And you guys were sent this prior to the meeting if you had it, but I wanted to clarify. The current balance is $359,000. 280 of that was money remaining from previous CPA allocations. The other 55 was some leftover money and investment income that gets added to that side. When you scroll down, as I am, last year we used the 397,000 for the 315 Howard Street acquisition, and that took half of what we had. And you have to go down 6 years prior, really. We had a land grant in fiscal 16 that helped pay for the Rostron property. And here in fiscal 15, we see the Rostron property and also the Maitreya piece, relatively small, that abuts Pisgah. And that was the last time we funded in a large amount the conservation fund from CPA, and then fiscal 14 also. So I give you all that to set the perspective. I think that we need to continue to keep the conservation fund well funded. I see that opportunities will come up in the next several years, and that having that available has been very effective in our moving quickly on parcels, negotiating deals without going to town meeting for each one. That's the reason we've agreed to put these amounts forward in the past, and the town has voted unanimously, not unanimously, I'm sorry, the town has approved every one of our initiatives to put money in the conservation fund without objection. So let's see, what did we do so far before that I don't have? We put in the 62.5 for the previous article under new revenue. So we satisfied the affordable housing minimum. We've already satisfied the historical minimum with the White Cliffs. We have satisfied the recreation open space with the pickleball. However, it is not open space preservation. So I'm asking that we fund the open space request for 400,000 and pull it from where we need to. And I would ask the committee to consider that. And I'm switching hats now. I'm back with the CPC, and would ask members to weigh in and also consider how it might be funded.
Can you pull up that other spreadsheet?
Which one? From
the one we were keeping track of the ongoing decisions tonight.
That's the one I got up now.
Yeah.
You're not seeing it? That's weird.
Nope.
Stand by. Let's do this. That's a weird thing. I guess. Sorry about that. Now you got it.
There we go.
Yes. You see it okay?
Yes, thank you.
So playing devil's advocate, historically, we've kind of thought that if there wasn't specific money, it would go into unreserved because we wouldn't know the future. At this point, you're asking us to take the majority of this money from unreserved and move it into conservation. And while you noted there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of properties out there, and there's a lot of support for it, obviously. Is it urgent need, or is there some, because I know a lot of times diplomacy or restriction, can't allow you to talk about certain projects. But does it seem like there's some urgency in this that would mean we would shift that priority?
While there is not a current negotiation, I still believe there's the opportunity for that, and it's the ability to act with urgency from the conservation fund, which is the way we've acquired previous parcels over the last 7 years, as compared to waiting for the town meeting cycle. So while it's true, as a committee, we've been conservative, keeping something in unreserved. We've taken from the conservation fund, using that as our open space reserve, if you will. and I'm advocating that we need to build it back up. Another reason is this year we got an extraordinarily high match from the state, more so than we've gotten in many years because of the change in legislation. So I think the revenue projections are low that Jason put into the spreadsheet. And I believe that's going to help our unreserved account. Even if the full 400 came from unreserved, we'd still be left with 298, which is nearly 300.
When was the last time we put any money into the conservation fund? It's been 2 or 3 years at least.
It's been 6 fiscal years.
That was what, 150 we put in there?
That long, wow.
Yeah, FY 2014.
So, and also if we took it all from unreserved, there's no need to take it from new revenue. If we took it all from unreserved, then any remaining revenue would go into unreserved anyway because all the categories are met. Is that's correct?
That's true.
So
you could
you have your 298 plus a 60,
yeah.
62, basically 60.
It'd be correct. It'd be a matter of how you felt about it. If you wanted to word it to use the potential remaining new revenue, given that and then take the rest, leaves a higher number in that other column. That looks better.
That money would go into unreserved anyway.
It's correct. That and any what I just stated. I believe there's more revenue than the 650 that 652 that we've been asked to use as our benchmark.
So taking it from current and unreserved would just, the only difference would be some math skills that we'd have to apply.
Correct. We have the math. We have a spreadsheet now.
So John, I'm sorry, you may have mentioned this before. How did you come up with the 400,000 figure?
Roughly replacing what was just spent on the most recent purchase on Howard Street, trying to get the fund back to its high point, which was nearly 800 just a couple of years ago. The goal is always a 1 million available reserve. Never quite got it there, but that was the basis for our application. And the fact that we've applied with that number for the previous 5 years and have been denied.
Yeah, John?
Yes, sir.
In that regards, I would say that conservation over the years has been very accommodating when other projects were on board that had more immediate concerns. So I think it's long overdue to replenish your stock, not yours specifically, of course. I would have no qualms at all with taking 400 from the reserve fund and putting it in conservation.
Thank you.
Can I make that motion?
It's better you than I.
I just did.
If you did, I'll second it.
So that was Todd's motion and Peter's second?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the motion, Todd. Thank you for the suggestion, Sean.
Welcome.
Is there any comment on the motion?
I apologize. I missed it. I'm sorry.
The motion from Todd was to fund the application in full at 400,000 from the unreserved balance. And it was seconded by Peter. Hearing no comment, I'll ask for a vote. I need a verbal answer. Peter?
Aye.
Jeff?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Millie?
Aye.
Sean,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
John, yes. Awesome.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Seventh
through the
time the
mirror-
charm, right?
Through the miracle of Excel spreadsheet. I'm doing it wrong.
Move that to the other column, right? There you go. Whoa,
4
John,
million.
buddy. Hey, pal.
Sorry,
Nice
just a
try,
small
John.
Hold on
slip
there, big
of
fella.
the finger.
What's the
I was
decimal
looking good
point?
there for a minute. Okay, thank you very much. We can move on to the fourth application from the Historical Society. I will unshare this for the moment. Just to summarize, we have 62,870 net new revenue available, not to mention 25,821 historic reserve. Is there a representative from Northborough Historical Society with us?
There he is.
And I'm not good at this.
Yeah, Mike's here.
John, I think, I don't know.
Mike is here. I see him.
Yeah, Mike's been
Mike
been
Deschanel?
promoted. And I don't know if there's anybody else. There's someone else who has their hand up, Richard. But I'm sorry, I don't know if he's on the a member of the Historical Society. Mike, maybe you could tell us.
That's fine. I don't have, it doesn't seem like I have the power to bring them in. Can you ask?
Yeah, Jim just brought Mike over.
He did. Okay, good.
Yep. And then there's someone else that has their hand up. And
Richard in the attendees.
yes, yep. But so I don't know if he's a member of the Historical Society or if he has a question or.
I'm not sure. Mike or Richard, when you can see us and hear us, please give us your name and address, please.
Okay, I can see you and hear you. This is Mike Duchesneau from 64 Valentine Road. I'm a member of the Board of Directors for the Northborough Historical Society. And I think Rick Ferenchik also, I think he's Vice President of the Society. He should also be here as well.
Yep, he was just brought over also.
Okay.
We don't have video.
Thanks for your patience.
We don't
No
have
problem.
video on either one of you, but
Okay.
but that's okay.
Okay, I can see you. I can see all of you folks. So this is Mike, by the way. Rick, are you there? Hello, Rick. Come in.
Oh, there's Mike. We see you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Rick is muted.
Yeah, Rick is muted.
Rick, can you unmute and join us, or perhaps that's not within your computer skills or computer capabilities? Hello, Rick. Are you there?
We have his picture.
Okay.
And now he's unmuted.
All right.
Nice.
Mr. Chairman and fellow CPC board members, I'm the Vice President and Chairman of the Finance Committee. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to address our funding request for the Historical Society. The building on 52 Main Street is basically 160 years old. It was painted about 13 or 15 years ago, and the CPC has provided funding previously to restore the organ and also to refurbish the kitchen itself within the last couple of years. Our goal itself is to prevent further deterioration of the physical building itself. The funds itself, they're roughly $20,000, will be used to restore, preserve, and protect from the weather elements itself. 3 members of the building committee are very, very seasoned. They've been with the Historical Society for a long time, and it includes also one of the past presidents too. I feel we've done our due diligence as far as doing our homework to get the application completed itself. I initially tried pro bono. I approached the Assabet Vocational School to see if they could possibly do it pro bono, and it was well beyond the scope of the students at the vocational school in Assabet. Then I approached the Worcester County Jail. I thought there was an outside chance too that we could get that done pro bono, and unfortunately too, that was just well beyond the scope as far as what they were capable to do. It just wasn't feasible itself. We solicited competitive bids from several different companies, and we selected Target Painting in Sudbury because it wasn't only price competitive, but as far as it was a qualitative type work. There's, I think, 30 pages submitted by Mike Ducheneau as far as the application itself, and the contract was included in there. We basically submitted a check for $2,000. I hand carried a check in October the 3rd for $2,000 as a down payment for the project itself. The $2,000 was funded by personal funds. There's a few of us that contributed a fair amount of money to basically commit to getting the restoration of the building done itself. We had full board authorization on that, and we're basically we're all privately funded. Just a quick note, I think we're basically one of the best kept secrets in town. From the community involvement, we basically use the building itself at affordable cost for AA during the pre-COVID type time frame. The Appalachian Club uses the Historical Society building. In addition to that, the Toastmasters International. In addition to that, typically every Monday there's a meeting of the Historical Society itself, and it's well attended. We have well over 100 members, and we would suggest possibly if you're interested in becoming members and attend some of the meetings, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised at how much the building is not only used, but how much it's used for the town in general. In closing, I'd like to thank both Norm Corbin and also Mike Ducheneau for their time and energy to submit the application itself. And it was basically 30 pages. And if there's any questions I could answer, or Mike was the one that submitted the application. So we're here to answer any future questions.
Rick, this is John. Thank you for your presentation, and your application was extremely thorough. I particularly like the part where you found all kinds of references for other towns that had approved a similar program. So I like that. That means we know it's got precedence among CPA communities. I have the pictures from your application on my screen. If you'd like me to pop it up.
Sure.
You can narrate if you can see it, but scrolling down here, the front view. I mean, there's a couple that really show that you need some paint.
Yeah. As I mentioned previously, it's been 13 to 15 years before, and we basically absolutely have to have the restoration accomplished now, because it just can't continue on with the weathering of the building itself.
Yeah, this side looks like it needs it.
I went into Sudbury Painting in October itself, and I spoke to the people that made it, the bidding proposal. I was really satisfied as far as with the bid proposal itself, and also the timeline and what have you kind of thing. And out of all the different bids we had, by far they were the best as far as being price competitive and also doing quality work too.
Well, good. I trust you've made a good decision there on who to go with. Any other questions from board members?
I have a couple questions. I mean, this was really very thorough. And it looks like you've done a good job trying to get or looking at funding options from other alternative sources. So I think that's great. Most of this looks like it's painting, and you talk about restoration. What is the restoration that's going to happen? That's like $950 out of the $20,000.
There's a section in the Arcade building that has to be restored. It's just totally weathered now. And that was part of the proposal itself. It's carpentry type work.
Yeah. So that's the restoration part of it. The rest is definitely is painting to keep a maintenance. Was the last painting project funded, or did we have CPA funding for that?
No.
No. Okay. So how was that funded before?
Probably privately funded. That was before my time.
Okay.
But the two recent CPS funding was for the restoration of the pipe organ. And the second thing, there was a fairly large grant submitted for the restoration of the kitchen itself in the building itself.
Okay, so again, it does look like it's painting, but I'm just curious that, you know, in 10 or 15 years, would it be acceptable to have another application as well for painting? I guess what I'm asking is, how is this different from maintenance other than that it's due to be painted? I'm just curious on that one.
Yeah. Well, the restoration itself kind of thing is, as far as you can see in the picture itself, we just want to prevent it from further deteriorating when it's before the wood starts rotting itself on the boards itself.
Yeah. Okay.
As you can see in some areas like that, it's really gotten pretty bad. We just can't kick the can forward anymore. It absolutely positively has to be done.
Yeah,
We kind of had the same question, Millie, and they did a good job of showing. I'm scrolling through the application, pardon me, but there was a nice section of references where this work is deemed as restoration and qualifies. I like that.
Yeah, I saw that. I just wanted to make sure that it was, you know, I guess when I saw the restoration tab in the breakdown of cost, the carpentry and repair was only $950, but you know, this is definitely more than that.
For what it's worth, the way I look at it is, if we don't paint and let the continuing deterioration of the clapboard continue, they'll come back for a much higher number to get us to fund restoration or repair and replacement of the clapboard. So, so this is a relatively cheap way to forestall more higher costs of restoration.
Maintenance, yeah. Well, not maintenance, but preventative.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we refer to it as preservation.
Yes. Okay. Great.
Very well.
I support the motion. I think we've supported the Historic Society, and I think it's a prominent building in the center of town. So it is really, it fits squarely in the CPA guidelines. So that much we know. And it's, my only question is, do we get to choose the color, or is it up to you guys?
I think that's no.
Yeah.
You can have any color
There's
you
a
want.
blue. There's a blue across the street that maybe we want to carry over on the other side.
As long as
Robin
the color covers the building itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in case, just as a matter of fact, I mean, it's across the street from that great project that Rick Leaf was talking about earlier that got the awards, the Gale building. So, it seems like it in a prominent spot in town, and it needs to be addressed one way or another.
Very good. Thanks again.
Thank you.
I'm
Thanks,
gonna,
sir.
yeah, I'm going to share again the, what am I doing here? I'm going to share again the spreadsheet showing funding availability. If everybody can see that. You know, interestingly, we have the historical reserve at 25,000, which I think that was kind of a residual amount after a portion of it was used elsewhere. That's an option, which keeps more of the remaining revenue over to the unreserved for all 4 categories. Would be one way to look at it. Otherwise, there's also remaining new revenue. Leslie, your historical, you have any opinion?
No, I honestly don't know what difference it makes.
I'd like to make a motion to fund the Historical Society's request for $22,000 and take that money from Historic Reserve.
I'll second that.
So Peter?
Yep.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Peter. So the motion is take 20,000 from the reserve and fund the application. Any other questions on the motion? I'd like a vote on it then. I need a verbal answer. Peter?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Millie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
John? Yes. It is so moved. So bingo, that works out nicely.
On behalf of the Board of Directors and the Historical Society, we really appreciate your consideration and thank you very much.
Thank you, and looking forward to the project.
Thank you.
We got one last order of business is the admin fund. Traditionally, we have chosen to fund it at our maximum of 5%. Any discussion? Otherwise, any motions might be made?
I make a motion that we fund the administrative fund to the total of $32,600, and that comes from new revenue.
Second.
That was Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Need a vote on that. I need a verbal answer. Let's see. Peter?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes. Yes.
Millie?
Aye.
Millie?
Yep.
Sean?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
John? Yes. It is done. Thank you all. That was pretty nicely done.
Much better without a whiteboard, I'll tell you that.
I kind of missed the whiteboard. It's sort of exciting last year. Well, we got all our business done. If I recall, we had said first Thursday in February would be a meeting date. I would recommend we keep the open hearing open just in case something comes up, and we can meet briefly if needed and close out. And who knows, might come. You know, all good with that.
Are we doing minutes?
We did the minutes before you got here. You were lucky to not have to go through it.
Sure.
All right, so John, you're going to keep the hearing open, and you'll definitely meet in February, or or just in case something comes up?
I would recommend at this point that we plan to meet. And so put it on your calendar, keep the hearing on, and we'll confer on an agenda. And if nothing
So
else, it'll be brief and we'll talk any other needs that we have for town meeting.
Okay, so February 4th, is it?
Well, yep, I believe that's right.
Speaking of town meeting, Kathy, is there any thoughts on what's going to happen with it?
No, not, I mean, the thought right now is that it has to, still be outside, but there hasn't been any discussion beyond that.
Well, I look forward to another scorcher outside.
Maybe we should go to the other extreme, just have a really chilly one.
I know.
Well, we'll go quicker probably, but.
Well, you would have thought the heat would have made it go quicker.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything else. If anyone else does, chime in. Otherwise, a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, third, fourth.
All right. Oh, you have to do roll call.
Got it. Peter, you want to leave?
You betcha.
Jeff,
Good night.
Leslie,
I'd like to stick around for a while. No, I'm good. Thank you.
all right. Millie,
I'm all set.
Sean,
Adjourned.
great to see you, Sean.
Thank you.
Todd,
Goodbye.
Andy,
Yes.
me, night all.
Good
Good night.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.